All right. Just want to give you 5 minutes of my life story and my background. I think it all started on Neville Island. Now, granted, Neville Island is an island in the middle of the Ohio River, just outside of Pittsburgh. And I was not born there. I was born and lived in Pittsburgh for a few years before my parents lived there. But I only have a few memories of just kind of, the house that we lived in on the north side of Pittsburgh, that I believe was on Langley Street. And nothing more than just like some images and impressions of the house and the yard, but nothing very formative. However, once we moved to Neville Island, which was I fondly like to call it and slightly embellish the family compound, but we moved into a neighborhood that not only were several of the houses owned by someone in my family, at least at some point in time, they were inhabited by members of my family. If I understand correctly, I grew up in the house that my great-grandparents on my father's mother's side lived in, and then my grandfather on my father's side, his parents lived in one of the other houses. And at some point in time, different families or different family members have lived in those houses, and they are in our possession to this day. So if we look at Neville Island, we've got the old family farmhouse, which is kind of the main house. That's where I grew up and where I said my great-grandparents lived. And then down the street, my grandmother and grandfather, my father's parents, lived. So I had my grandparents as my next door neighbors growing up. And and I think my great aunt lived next door at one point in time as well, but my grandmother's sister, Aldona. So we had, in the neighborhood, we had multiple relatives. And then it's a small neighborhood. There were only maybe half a dozen other houses. So of the, let's just say, I don't know, if there's 10 houses in the block or in the neighborhood, I believe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them belong to my family, and then maybe there's another just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7. So of the 12, 5 of them were in my family. So there was this, and not only that, the way that the property is located, it's at the end of a street. Okay, so Neville Island is kind of, I could put up a picture, but Neville Island is like this long, strip in the middle of the river, and then there's a main road that goes up the middle, that's the Main Street or Grand Avenue, and then all of the neighborhoods are like spurs coming off of that main street. So you've got, they're not really so much connected in a loop as they are a spine that has these little offshoots going off of it. So we had one main street coming off of Main Street that was Pershing Road, and then within that chunk you had these 12 houses. And so really, and then on the one side was a major ball field, like a big baseball field and soccer court, soccer pitch. Nobody calls it that in the United States. Anyway, it's a big park. And then on the other side, you had basically a parking lot, which was a truck rental and repair shop for Hertz trucks. And now it's changed ownership a couple times. And now I think currently it's a Sunbelt kind of automatic crane dealership or storage and rental place. But anyway, what I'm trying to describe is this kind of insulated quality, this very protected quality. One of the early memories I had when I moved to Neville Island was my grandmother taking her garbage up to a 55-gallon steel drum to burn it. You don't see people doing stuff like that anymore, but that was just a ritual that she had. It was very kind of back in the day, in my mind, it's back in the day country-esque that doesn't exist anymore. There was one gas station, and I remember walking up to the gas station for the first time. The door was a screen door that was dusty and kind of off the hinges practically, and that was the entrance to the garage where the mechanic worked. And so you had, that was basically your local convenience store, if anything. I don't know if they sold anything there, maybe a couple bags of potato chips. And then there was also a bar on the corner called Mary's. And that I can recall laying in bed and hearing every Thursday night they had 25-cent draft and 25-cent wings or something like that. But basically you could, I think it was 25-cent draft and 10-cent wings, if I'm remembering correctly. One or the other. Basically for $1, you're gonna get plenty of food and pretty drunk. And so these guys would come in on their Harleys, and it was basically like biker gangs would come down and park at this place, Mary's, and there was a big gravel parking lot, and they would, peel out whenever they left at 11 or 12 or 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever it was, when they were finally closing the place down. But, I'd be in bed sleeping just a few hundred feet away, and I would hear these Harleys ripping off into the night, and that would put me to sleep. That and the Hertz truck rental. I could sleep really great to an impact wrench, taking the wheels on and off of trucks into the night, and I could fall right to sleep to that. But even then, we still felt like we were insulated in this very protected kind of farm-like existence with a barn and a big yard to cut the grass, and lots of chores to do. And then we were right on the river. The river was in the backyard. That's probably the main takeaway. But this is just, I'm going to be cataloging this stuff because who knows, if you're watching this, you either are just interested in listen to what I have to say, or you might be a family member or relative who's seeing this in the future, and you're saying, okay, wow, that's life isn't like that anymore. I do sincerely hope that property is still in our family, but as things change and generations pass, everybody has their reasons for doing things. I don't live there anymore, and hopefully my sister will help take care of it, but I intend to help keep it up as well. That's enough for now. It's about a 7-minute video, and that's more than I said I was going to do. So catch you next time. We'll pick it up. I'll keep telling you about Neville Island.